the joint statement that has been released today, I think contextually speaking, we find ourselves at that moment wherein the international waters are increasingly getting closed, and that is impacting our overall energy security. Particularly not just India, but many countries across the Indo-Pacific, and I think all Quad partners agreed to this. Similarly, Australia was sharing their experiences, and Japan was sharing its experiences. Overall, I think the idea was how do we ensure that as Quad partners we can work together to ensure freedom of navigation, unimpeded commerce, because the rights and the safety of our seafarers is also involved. And in the midst of many of these complex global situations that we see, it is the seafarers that who keep getting impacted a lot. And the joint statement that has been released today, I think contextually speaking, we find ourselves at that moment wherein the international waters are increasingly getting closed, and that is impacting our overall energy security. Particularly not just India, but many countries across the Indo-Pacific, and I think all Quad partners agreed to this. And there was a long discussion on it as to what countries could do, how do we ensure affordable energy to, for example, for India, 1.4 billion people. What are we doing? How are we trying to diversify our sources from where we can obtain our energy? Similarly, Australia was sharing their experiences, and Japan was sharing its experiences. Overall, I think the idea was how do we ensure that as Quad partners we can work together to ensure freedom of navigation, unimpeded commerce, because the rights and the safety of our seafarers is also involved. And in the midst of many of these complex global situations that we see, it is the seafarers that who keep getting impacted a lot. And Quad, if you look at the joint statement, there is a specific reference to this element also. So as the Quad ministers did deliberate on this for quite some time, and connected to this is the joint statement that we have specifically released on this occasion, which highlights as to how the Quad partners are spotlighting energy security. As I had said in my briefing note also, our attempt is to ensure that how do we leverage the unique resources and capabilities that the Quad partners can bring to bear and prepare an engagement plan. This plan will focus on not just technology, management, policy, but also international market analysis, as well as emergency response. How can we respond to such emergency situations? What are the best practices? So I think the foreign minister spoke on this issue at quite a length. And it is on that basis that some of these documents have also been released. I would encourage you to kindly look at this joint statement. There's some very novel ideas that we have put forward.
As of now, and Hormuz still blocked. So are we heading towards another escalation and even worse energy crisis for the globe?
On Strait of Hormuz, Iran's Consul General in Mumbai, Saeid Reza Mosayeb Motlagh says, first of all, negotiations are not at a complete deadlock. Both sides are still communicating their positions, and intermediaries are conveying messages between them. However, regarding the constraints created and the pressure imposed by the United States on the global system, unfortunately, this situation is not favorable for the world. Iran seeks to manage and stabilize it. For many years, even historically, we have known our rights and our geographic importance. Yet, we have kept these waterways open out of goodwill toward the global community. But when our security was targeted, something that has been happening for over 40 years, and especially when direct attacks were launched from southern neighboring regions, we exercised our rights. Even now, our intention is not to close the Strait of Hormuz or impose tolls. However, the services we provide in the future may need to be reconsidered, and this will require technical and expert evaluation.
State Marco Rubio is in India for summit, and he's also visiting various places in India. So how does Iran sees Marco Rubio's visit to India and statements which he made about India, that Trump and US are a good friend of India and PM Modi?
طبیعتاً این روابطی هستش که بین هند و آمریکا هست.
This is part of the bilateral relations between India and the United States, and we respect India's decisions, just as we respect its other policies. However, regarding the remarks made during this visit about the Strait of Hormuz and claims that Iran's sanctions have caused disruptions, we must say that this is not accurate. These are attempts at deflection. In reality, US sanctions on Iran have effectively imposed sanctions on the entire world. For years, India benefited from Iranian oil to develop its infrastructure and industries. But due to US sanctions, this supply was cut off. Now they present the situation in a different form, claiming a maritime blockade, which is false. We have not blocked the Strait of Hormuz for non-American and those vessels which do not serve the American and the Zionist regime's interests. In recent days, it was officially announced that at least 22 oil tankers have been allowed passage by Iran, and this process continues daily.